What was hugely hyped up but flopped? Depends where you are really. 3D is still a far bigger money maker than 2D in China at the moment, to the point where most films with 3D versions rarely have 2D versions available in cinemas. Free Guy was strictly 3D only in my city. Some fairly recent films have had excellent 3D though, e.g. Into the Spider-Verse, The Aeronauts, The Incredibles 2, Free Guy, etc. I'm not really fussed about the effect of 3D, but ever since snap lens attachments were available for my glasses it's not been much trouble. G&D did have something unique to offer. The circles idea was a much more natural and privacy-conscious way to think about friends and sharing, compared to Facebook, which defaulted to everything you shared being open to all your friends. I have school friends, uni friends, work colleagues, family, extended family, other acquaintances, and the way I interact with different groups and what I share with them is and should be different. G&D made this a core feature whereas Facebook made it painful. If anything was going to be a Facebook killer, G&D was it. The problem with G&D is that, by the time it came along, Facebook was already way too entrenched as the main mass-market social network. If the top 20 or 30 of my Facebook friends had all spontaneously migrated to G+, I would have shut my Facebook account and migrated over there too. But in the absence of that, it's too much effort to have to maintain and check 2 accounts, share things in 2 places, etc. Facebook wasn't better but it won by inertia. I moved in with my brother and his girl last summer 2020, they were like this about QAnon, they would say stupid shit like JFK Jr. will come back from the dead to lead the new world order. They had a party one day when they thought Princess Diana was going to come back and announce she faked her death that day. They took out all these loans and pretty much bankrupted themselves because they thought the world was going to transform into quantum finance and people would only work if they wanted to and not because they had to. When you questioned them on basic things they'd start screaming and say that I was a sheep living in the Matrix. So what I did was after about 6 weeks I found a room to rent somewhere and just disappeared. I couldn't take their shit anymore. They started getting chased by debt collectors and started saying it was my fault because of my negative energy. That's hilarious. UCLA, UCSD, SFSU film students had bets going into the summer of 2020 how long it would last. The only point it made it into curriculum was briefly in development class. The notes I took down for the class time was: no one uses Quibi in class of 26 seniors aspiring to work in pre-production after college. Sample size is small, but diverse. Quibi equals fucked. More importantly, Universal Inc. 17-day release window with iTunes. No one batted an eye months later when it went under. My so and I just rewatched Victorious. It's on Netflix, and it's easy to see as 30-year-olds why Victoria Justice never took off as a singer. The demographic of the music and the rest of the show didn't match, so you'd have a song about guys buying a girl drinks at a club in a show where characters got slimed as one of the jokes. Anytime they tried to make the music more tween-friendly it was just annoying, like using boys in a song title or making a kid-friendly version of Baby Got Back. 5 fingers to the face kinda slaps though. Tori was also a Mary Sue to a ridiculous level. She never did anything wrong and never faced consequences for her actions. That doesn't translate well to the edgier pop star they were trying to create. Every teenager knows a girl like that in school and typically doesn't like them, so they definitely aren't going to see that person in concert or wear their merch or listen to their music. Also, Tori basically stole every song from Andre and was the least talented of the group, except Trina. He did a nationwide tour in 2016/2017 in the US, going to different high schools, and he came to mine and did a concert. Supposedly he only did the tours because he was bankrupt. Dude looked really bad and there was zero life in his eyes as he sang. Edit, here's a link to him singing the Drake and Josh theme. I was young and cringy in high school, so ignore the rest of my page, lol. Edit 2, removed the link because someone informed me I was doxing myself, grinning face with sweat. I'm silly. The darkness was the least of the issues though. Perfect lighting couldn't have saved that script. Season 5, when they surpassed the books, the wheels started falling off. Season 6 had moments, but it was clear the quality had dipped. Season 7 and 8 were so poorly written and rushed that they retroactively ruined the early seasons. I was obsessed with the show seasons 1 to 4, rewatched multiple times and read the books multiple times. Could rewatch the show at all once it all ended. All those deadened plot lines and meaningless moments. For me, the first big sign was when Arya openly tries to flee Bravos like an idiot, gets stabbed in the stomach because she had a sudden case of the stupids, swims through a canal full of raw sewage, stays with someone that the faceless men were contracted to kill, somehow had enough time to heal and doesn't die of an infection, and escapes the moment she recovers. It was fucking insulting to the viewer's intelligence. Any reasonable person would have expected a slow and agonizing death, but I guess a bit of morphine is a magical cure-all. And I lost all hope when Daenerys just forgot about the Iron Fleet and the writers fucking confirmed that it was intentional, or at least, were trying to cover up their laziness, not to mention the absolutely batshit insane defense of Winterfell. I could go on, but I'd be ranting all night. He was a commentator for the Baylor-Kansas game yesterday. First I ever heard him speak outside random montages of crazy over the years. He is actually a pretty good commentator, for an ESPN and only game streamed by dozens of people. There was one point where they were talking about the OUQB and apparently he's been struggling this year. Leaf goes, sometimes you get all this hype, Mel Kiper had him as the top pick on his board, so everyone goes crazy. Kiper can be wrong, he had me as his top pick. I laughed so hard. There is a plot, it's mostly introduction songs that half are never seen again and half that relate to the plot. It's a function of the source material. There is a wise old cat picks a cat to be reborn and start their next life. There is an old cat lady who is old and would like to be reborn and is estranged from the group. But wait, the old wise cat is kidnapped by an evil cat. Then wait, there is a magic cat who magic him back. Then the cat take the old cat back into the group, who is then chosen to be reborn. The music is great, plot is barely there, window dressing to link the songs somewhat together. The secret is that they're really just the patches. Windows 7 is just Windows Vista Service Pack 3. Windows 10 is just Windows 8.1 SP2. Windows XP? It was just Windows Me SP1. And really XP sucked until the actual for real official XP SP2. I'm not kidding. All the good ones are the bad ones rebranded after they worked out the bugs. Basically every other Windows release is a massive outsourcing of QA to the public and basically a sacrificial entry to absorb everyone's hate for having to give up their current Windows that they like. Win 11? It'll suck, everyone will hate it, and they'll fix all the broken stuff in Win 11, rebrand it as Windows 12 or Windows Awesome or whatever, and everyone will be, oh thank God they dumped Win 11 and accept Win 12 as being good. This is a big problem with society in general. Y2K, we spent the money and fixed it? So everyone was like, well, that was overhyped. What a waste of money. If we had actually prepared for coronavirus like we should have, people would have said the same thing. Y2K could have been really bad, but we spent the time and money to fix the problem. An estimated $100 billion was spent making sure Y2K didn't fuck us. It very much was a big deal. Exactly. I get mad when people say this. I worked in a bank and a credit union in the years leading up to Y2K. I first noticed issues with CD maturities in 1996. I remember the software people saying they were working on it. I didn't even know what the issue was, but soon found out. Once I became manager of a small credit union in 1997, I had to regularly test updates to our software as the coders worked on patches. This was done after hours and I had to report what worked and what didn't. Then the programmers would work some more, and send all their new updates to test. This went on right up to Y2K. I also had to do quarterly reports to the National Credit Union Administration. I had to provide detailed contingency plans. A lot of work and money went into this issue for years to make it work. The fucking Wii came onto Kickstarter talking about totally changing gaming. Small and medium-sized companies wanted to publish on it. Goddamn Best Buy was stocking it. Then the mask was off, an Android-flavored box top that didn't have enough power to emulate the N64 well, much less run serious games. Initially regretted not backing it, then breathed a huge sigh of relief. Hype was insane and totally misplaced. That was a marketing failure on Coca-Cola's part, an example of theory not translating into practice. New Coke fared better in taste tests than other colas, and Coca-Cola was already allowing bottlers to use corn syrup instead of sugar, so it shouldn't have failed on paper. What they perhaps should have done was accept the risk of the two products competing and market both New Coke and Coke Classic at the same time. The Edsel. It was supposed to be a technological showcase. It had an electronically operated push-button automatic transmission in 1958. The buttons were mounted on the steering wheel. It offered its own brand-specific engines. It was the car of the future. And it was only slightly more expensive than a Ford. But when it came out you got an overly complicated Ford with a chrome vagina for a grille. It also didn't help that Chrysler had been offering its much more reliable and much less complicated mechanical push-button operated automatic transmissions since 1955. Even Plymouth's had it since 1956. The line was done by 1960 and is still seen as a complete failure. Oh, and the miracle push-button automatic only lasted 1 year and was replaced with a more conventional column shift. The Wii. It was supposed to be this awesome little video game console that was designed to get indie developers seen. It was also to be cheap for consumers at only $100 with every game made for the system having a free version of some kind. Each system could also double as a dev kit, making it really easy for prospective developers to get their games on the system. When it hit Kickstarter, it blew up and broke just about every Kickstarter record at the time. They had so much success with the Kickstarter that even major game developers and publishers like Sega and Square Enix started to pay attention and even released some games on the platform early on. When the system launched, however, most of the games available were low-quality mobile trash, and no one really wanted it anymore. The major game companies jumped ship really early, and the system crashed and burned hard. The few exclusives that were actually interesting would go on to see success on other platforms, like Towerfall and Duck Game. Now, the system is about as useful as a paperweight, as the online servers have been shut down. Microsoft Zune. It was going to be the iPod's rival. But it never really hung around a long time. And now MP3 players are kinda not around anymore because of phones. On a lesser note, Microsoft phones. Had one for my first smartphone and learned quickly they didn't keep apps updated. Ugh. I actually still haven't used my Zune HD1 to this day, but it never did a whole lot. As it is now, I know it can't use the internet at all since it can't update. Probably can't get the apps anymore either. I recall a story where someone thought it was a good idea to get 3 Zune tattoos and then when it flopped wanted Microsoft to pay for the tattoo removal. All recent movements. Tax the rich, BLM, Stop Asian Hate, Me Too, etc. All that happens is more people are aware and think about the cause, but no actual decent changes have been made, unfortunately. The scummy rich pricks aren't getting taxed, nothing is happening to them, cops are still targeting black people and not having to face any consequences, crimes against Asian people are still happening, nothing preventing it, and still no one gives a shit about women, and that abortion ban in Texas happened. I had to meet a girl. I got along very well with her and I talked often, so I thought I'd take the big step, go with her on a date. She accepted and I was quite happy about it. The day we were supposed to meet, I arrive a little early and start waiting for her. I was already waiting for 15 minutes, so I sent a message to know if anything had come in. In another 5 minutes I get a message from her that she can't come anymore as she has to meet with another guy. Not the best day. Those alien sighting report by the American military, every form of media was talking for days about those leaked and official videos of those tic-tac-shaped spacecrafts and about how the Pentagon will release a report on a specific date on June. And then the date came and nothing, no one cared. I had to look for it and it was hard to find an actual report on it instead of the content that was released prior. On top of that, the report can be essentially summarized by shit if we know what the fuck was that. Depends where you are really. 3D is still a far bigger money maker than 2D in China at the moment, to the point where most films with 3D versions rarely have 2D versions available in cinemas. Free Guy was strictly 3D only in my city. Some fairly recent films have had excellent 3D though, e.g. Into the Spider-Verse, The Aeronauts, The Incredibles 2, Free Guy, etc. I'm not really fussed about the effect of 3D, but ever since snap lens attachments were available for my glasses it's not been much trouble. G&D did have something unique to offer. The circles idea was a much more natural and privacy-conscious way to think about friends and sharing, compared to Facebook, which defaulted to everything you shared being open to all your friends. I have school friends, uni friends, work colleagues, family, extended family, other acquaintances, and the way I interact with different groups and what I share with them is and should be different. G&D made this a core feature whereas Facebook made it painful. If anything was going to be a Facebook killer, G&D was it. The problem with G&D is that, by the time it came along, Facebook was already way too entrenched as the main mass-market social network. If the top 20 or 30 of my Facebook friends had all spontaneously migrated to G+, I would have shut my Facebook account and migrated over there too. But in the absence of that, it's too much effort to have to maintain and check 2 accounts, share things in 2 places, etc. Facebook wasn't better, but it won by inertia. I moved in with my brother and his girl last summer 2020, they were like this about QAnon, they would say stupid shit like JFK Jr. will come back from the dead to lead the New World Order. They had a party one day when they thought Princess Diana was going to come back and announce she faked her death that day. They took out all these loans and pretty much bankrupted themselves because they thought the world was going to transform into quantum finance and people would only work if they wanted to and not because they had to. When you questioned them on basic things, they'd start screaming and say that I was a sheep living in the matrix. So what I did was, after about 6 weeks, I found a room to rent somewhere and just disappeared. I couldn't take their shit anymore. They started getting chased by debt collectors and started saying it was my fault because of my negative energy.